Hi everyone, welcome to the third conversation in the Hustle Fuel series. I am very excited to chat with Shruti Gandhi today, and not just because of all that she has accomplished. She is a general partner and founding engineer at Array Ventures, which is an enterprise SaaS venture fund based out of the Bay Area. She has led over 60 early stage investments with exits to companies such as Apple, PayPal, ServiceNow, and the We Company. She is also an adjunct professor of computer science at Columbia University. Why I am excited to chat with her is because, in her own words, she's built this very impressive career from nothing. As Shruti has publicly said, my life is my message. I put it out there so that someone, a little Shruti somewhere in the world, sees it and says, wow, she just did that and she didn't have that background. I can do it too. You don't have to go to all the top networks and universities to make that happen. I hope this conversation sheds light on the power of people and relationships, what it takes to be a constant learner, and how one can utilize the community around themselves to build an entrepreneurial career. Without further ado, let's get chatting with Shruti. Hi, Shruti.
Hi, so much. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. So let's get started right away. You moved with your family from Mumbai to upstate New York when you were about 18, and they left figuring out how to get into college to you. How did that work out?
Thank you so much, first of all, for having me again. I was 17. We all came here, and then they left me a month later, and they said figure out how to get into college. I think, honestly, it was one step at a time, problem solving for me. That's the early days of me trying to figure out how kind of how I've gotten here. You could kind of see the germs of that in those days. Just taught myself how to code. I got a job at the computing lab. It was 99. And so it was the early days of, or like right in the middle of .com era. And so when I got myself a job at the computing lab at the local university, Mayor's College, I also convinced them eventually to accept me into that college by kind of proving all the hard work I was doing and proving all the other work I had done in school in Bombay before. So that's how I got into college.
So self-taught coder definitely supplanted taking the SATs in your case. So so that led to a 10-year long career almost as an engineer. And then you transitioned from building products to building a company. What were the pivotal moments behind that transition?
Yeah, I think honestly, starting a company after that was just a passion. I always knew that was what I wanted to do. I come from an entrepreneurial family, but I didn't really know what it meant to start a venture back company. So when it comes to starting companies, there's a scale to which how venture back companies work and grow. And I think that's a learned skill. So I started the company, and then I wanted to learn about venture back companies. So I got into venture to kind of reverse engineer that journey of learning venture back journey companies and their growth. And so that's the transition I made eventually, one step at a time. The venture journey was really to understand that and then to go start another company after that. In my case, that company ended up in the long-winded way being a fund, which is Array Ventures. That's what I ended up starting after my career at working at other venture funds.
Yeah. So you've often spoken about how doing your MBA at Chicago Booth played a pivotal role in your transition to venture capital. Tell us the story about how Professor Kaplan, your entrepreneurial finance professor at Booth, taught you about the power of really putting yourself out there and how that shaped your journey in venture.
That's such a great question. Yeah, it's a funny story, and I think you must have read it somewhere. I was trying to get into venture, and venture is all about knowing the right people and who you know. But I didn't want to quite leverage my network for things I thought that were trivial, that I thought I should just leverage myself and my skill set to get there. So, that summer between first year and second year of business school, I thought maybe it's just like, so I'm gonna just work hard and try to figure out a job, and apply to programs like Kaufman Fellowship and stuff. And funnily, like I go back to school and I'm taking a class with Professor Kaplan, entrepreneurial finance, private equity, and I'm sitting in that class, and he comes up to me and said, "Look, these guys reached out to me to get a recommendation on you. Of course, I put in a good word, but why didn't you warn me about that in advance?" It made me look bad because I was caught by surprise, and that's not how you conduct business today. And that was a big lesson learned on my end, that I actually think I'm doing other people a disservice by not keeping them in the loop. And that's what I've done best in my life so far. Keeping the right people in life, even if it's a deal or anything else, abreast, so they're not caught by surprise. Because when someone's prepared, they have something better to offer, even for you, and they know what the right things to hit on as well, instead of just like learning things out in the moment. So that's a big lesson learned, and that's how Professor Kaplan was super helpful to me into getting into the Kaufman program at that time.
Yeah. I mean, I think always ask. I mean, I'm hearing that loud and clear for sure. In terms of just, you worked in a couple of venture funds before you started Array. And, you're often told, especially in the early years of your career, that come back when you have enough experience or the right background. How did you know it was enough when you decided to set up Array?
Set up Array or just started venture generally?
Set up Array. I mean, you had worked in ventures for other funds before, but how did you know it was the right time to break out on your own?
Honestly, Prajita, this was all accidental. There was not I said I was going to go start a company. It ended up becoming a fund because there were some founders of mine had worked with before, and just folks had been, familiar within the industry, and had said, "We like the way you work. You went to bat for us. We think you have interesting deal flow. If you're investing in things, let us know. We'll invest with you." Long story short, as we were trying to figure that out, it ended up becoming a fund. That was my first fund. Just people I knew backing me and wanting to invest in deals that I would find. So I wouldn't say that it's a whole planned out journey. I wouldn't say that, funnily, like I knew I wanted to start a venture fund at some point, but I mean, everyone wants to start a venture fund like in 2020, 2021 era, but in 2015, 2016 timeframe, that was not a common path. And so, for me, still felt like a blue ocean, like find my own strategy, find my own way there. And luckily, I had a lot of people along the way that helped me get there.
Yeah. So all those people who believed in you and almost, sort of propelled you to start Array Ventures, why do you think they felt that you and Array Ventures are well positioned to help, early stage founders, as you say, from that 0 to 1 to 10 journey?
Actually, that's a good question. So what is clear is enterprise investors and enterprise expertise is still specialized. And I think what they saw in me even was before something I even saw in myself. I had worked with companies, and I had a okay track record by that point, and companies investing in data-driven companies. But I think the founders saw that, and my investors in the early days saw that. They saw my hustle, they saw my expertise, the technical expertise. They saw the potential in me, which I'm super grateful for. So Array invests in enterprise B2B data-driven companies. And there are not enough funds out there today at our stage that specialize in this, right? There are a lot of generalist funds, and there are a lot of enterprise application layer funds, but not true infrastructure, security, data, cloud kind of funds. So that's what we invest in. And hindsight, it looks more clear now because I can see exactly the folks that are in this category. But in that time frame, others saw that before I saw that in myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the specialist fund focus and your earlier background as a technical founder yourself definitely played a huge role in that.
Yeah.
As someone who has so much hustle yourself, what do you look for in founders when they're sitting across a table over a pitch meeting?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. There's so many things I could look for. The one thing I look for very clearly is the ability to make deals. Um, Founders often go in circles and they're always optimizing for their best outcome. The thing is, at the stage we're at, which is first check pre-seed, I find the founders who can make fast decisions and grow and learn and have a gut feeling about who they want to work with the fastest are the ones I admire the most. And I think those are the ones I gravitate towards as well. Not everyone's going to want to work with you, and not, and I don't want to work with everyone either. So the ability to just kind of listen to your gut, go with that data, and not just trying to optimize like for the 10 best investors out there, um, is the kind of the right founder for Array. Our founders oftentimes make decisions really fast, go with the gut, they optimize on people, and I do too.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a commonality you'd want to look for, how you optimize for your decision making. Um, so Array has a pretty impressive set of very diverse founders within your portfolio. Having been a female engineer and founder yourself before and now a VC, what has been your experience on both sides of the table in female founders trying to attract venture capital?
What a fun question. I think it's the answers I give you are going to be so obvious, but it's true. I think the confidence, the lack of confidence, or I shouldn't even say the lack of confidence, it's the ability to not be overconfident, which I actually admire in a lot of founders. But the world in venture capital in startup world looks for a particular set of traits. They're used to a particular set of patterns, and it's unfortunate because those patterns don't work for underrepresented founders, including women. And it kind of adversely works for me as well. I could walk into a room and I get asked a question by LPs on, particular deliverables or my numbers. And I always qualify it. I add a nuanced approach. I add all these, like sharp, thoughtful ways to answer that question. But honestly, in the end, the one that can be overconfident about what they do wins the game and can raise more capital. That's just the unfortunate market we're in. So that's what we see women founders struggle with as well. Underrepresented founders struggle with it as well. They try to be so careful and thoughtful about everything, and the world kind of punishes them for that, which I think is unfair. So we do not have those filters, and that is why we love working with the founders we like working with, because I can relate to them and they can relate to me.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's also a rarity in the VC world. I mean, of course, having a venture fund started by a woman. So, I mean, that's definitely a factor as well. So, in VC, where so much of the sourcing is through inbound referrals, if a founder, a diverse founder, an underrepresented founder isn't plugged into the right networks, does cold outreach work? If someone just tweets out to you or emails you, would you respond?
We do. We've done quite a few deals that way as well. So that's the short answer of it. And that's why we have such strong presence on social media, Twitter, LinkedIn, because we're very open minded about that. Me, 10 years ago, was someone who didn't have those networks. I'm about to post something on Twitter about I've only been here in the Bay Area full time for 9 years. And here I am doing what I'm doing that is so network heavy. And I wouldn't have been able to do that if, I didn't get a chance. If I didn't get a chance, so why can't I give someone else a chance? So we're pretty strong advocate of, it's not just like a Stanford dropout or something like that. You looking at holistic way of from a founding team perspective. We believe there are many other reasons that a company and a business would succeed. And we like to back those, not just based on the standard patterns that we read about in the news.
Absolutely. And pay it forward, I think, is a deeply ingrained value just even for your fund. So that's wonderful to see. In terms of the most important contributors to your knowledge base, who would you say they are?
What does that
Like,
mean?
so when you're learning, so as an investor, you look at different sources to learn, to get your intel. Sometimes you're trying to learn from just one meeting or two. Who would you say are those key drivers of that constant learning?
We work with a lot of operators. I think that's the key. We have, any given day, I'd rather take a meeting with a C-level executive operator at a company, an enterprise company, or just a company working on something fun over a VC meeting. So I think end of the day, the operators have the best experience on the ground experience on the pain points they're facing or what we should be working on. And I think that for me, spending time with those people gives us the highest insight into the market.
Got it. What about your students at Columbia? Given that the tech in the field is evolving so fast as well, do they also play a role in how you stay up to speed?
Definitely, they're very good at helping me figure out future tech trends. Generally, yeah.
Got it. So last question, something I ask all my guests. If you were to look back at your journey, which has been unconventional and very interesting to say the least, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self looking back?
Dream big. I think I think about it. My answer changes every day, but the most recent one is, time is so precious, and we're robbed of our time every second, especially as we have more and more responsibilities. So everyone says take risk early on, but it's true. When you get older and when you are married and you have kids, your time is taken away by more and more people, and your attention. And so I think that the sooner you realize that your strongest asset is your time, and taking risks and starting early and dreaming big, kind of all combined together, can lead you to doing some amazing things. I think, yeah, I would say don't be afraid. Just go. I mean, there is nothing to lose. Obviously, that's a very privileged answer. I'm talking about people again who do not have time restrictions around like obligations and things that do not allow them to take those kinds of risks. So, but the minute you can, just do that. Just take them. Have an exit strategy in mind. Know how long you're going to take those risks. Don't keep just at it for decades or many years. It's okay to fail fast as well, but take the risk.
That's that's wonderful. That's spoken truly like a VC. Have an exit strategy for the risks you take early on. I love that. Well, thank you, Shruti. This has been a great conversation. And like I said at the beginning, your hustle is really inspiring.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for such wonderful, insightful questions.
Absolutely.